But it would mean that we would, bring the troops home. We'd bring them home from Korea and Japan, Germany. There may well be an immediate economic benefit by all those salaries and wages of the military spending their money here at home instead of in Germany and Japan. But that still wouldn't be enough cutting. You'd have to cut some more. So I have picked five departments to cut, and then also go back on the budget levels to 2006. You know, government wasn't like it was too small back in 2006. Just go back to 2006, and that gets you down. After 3 years, the budget would be balanced. The only reason that this doesn't happen is people in Washington are in denial. They don't think there's a deficit spending problem. Today, guess what? The president has announced that he's going to ask the Congress to raise the national debt by $1.2 trillion. Oh, no, absolutely not. But guess what kind of trickery they have, and guess who did it? It was the Congress last summer when they had this resolution. You know, when they created the super committee that was going to solve all our problems, they made a deal with the president. This is the way it works. The president goes to the Congress and says, I need to raise in the national debt $1.2 trillion. And if Congress doesn't do anything if the Congress doesn't reject the request, in 15 days it becomes law. Automatic. They have to reject it. And guess what? He's going to ask for this increase when they're on Christmas vacation. So the debt, in a way, is going up automatically. They're on autopilot. And believe me, this economy is not going to sustain it much longer. This is a worldwide phenomenon. It's a dollar phenomenon. It's a monetary phenomenon. And it's intertwined. We are very much engaged right now in bailing out Europe. And we're doing this through the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve does it off the books. They don't even get audited. Until we can get rid of the Fed, we at least ought to know exactly what they're doing, and Congress ought to force them to tell us what they're doing. We're approaching a crisis time, economically speaking and politically speaking. Our liberties are at threat too, not by an outside invader. Nobody's going to invade us. We have the strongest military. We've done a great job militarily. But we've also taken that oath to beware of enemies, both foreign and domestic, and we have a lot of our freedoms under threat right now. But we're at a crossroads, and we have to make a decision. And it's a decision that the founders actually had to make because they got sick and tired of the king. They got sick and tired of the taxes and the oppression and soldiers being put in their houses, the loss of their privacy. And the American people are getting that way too. And we have to make a decision, once again, what should the role of government be? The founders wrote the Constitution, said the role of the federal government at least would be very, very minimal. And right now, though, the federal government is very, very large, and which means that every power and authority the federal government gets undermines your personal liberty. The goal in all political action, from my viewpoint, should be the promotion and preservation of individual liberty. If our military has been so successful and we don't have to worry about anybody invading us, then what are our concerns about it? to me, it is the economy and the way we've lived beyond our means and the way we have become careless with our liberties, that we allow our government to do too much. We had a major crisis, of course, a major event which was so terrible for us to withstand. And that, of course, happened on 9/11. 9/11, you know, was a very bad episode, and a lot had to be done. But we didn't do exactly the right things at the right time. For instance, one of the first things they did within days before they decided who did what and where we would go, they passed a piece of legislation that had been floating around for years, and they shoved it on the floor, and within an hour it was passed, and nobody had time to read it, and that was the Patriot Act, and that took away your Fourth Amendment rights, and we don't need the Patriot Act. And of course, just recently, we have had some other changes. Matter of fact, early this year, the president announced a policy change. He said now that it was proper it was proper for him to have the authority to assassinate an American citizen, even if they have not been charged with anything, if he thought it was necessary. Very bad. Now, of course, the person they picked out, probably a very bad guy. He talked about stirring up violence. He was never charged with it. He never had a trial, and yet it was decided that he would be assassinated, so we used a drone, and we assassinated him in Yemen. So let it go by. He's a bad guy. He's gone. But the principle, the precedent is very, very dangerous. So the next week, they decided, well, his son looked like a pretty shady character too, so they sent another missile over to get the son. Well, they got him, plus his cousin. They were back in the backyard barbecuing, killed them both. The son was 16 years old. And this is not the way America's supposed to be. We're supposed to be a nation of law. A rule of law is what we want. So, in one sense, when we go into the military, we take the oath and we go and fight and endanger ourselves to protect our Constitution. At the same time, our Constitution is being eroded right here at home. Just this last week, 2 weeks ago, I guess, the National Defense Authorization Act. That act has in it. I'm always impressed that so many people know about it. That means we have a healthy society and the internet is working. But that bill essentially eliminates posse comitatus. It's institutionalizing military law that the military can arrest an American citizen without charges and being denied an attorney and held indefinitely, even in a foreign prison. This is not good for us. And fortunately, we're able to get some information out, and a lot of what we've done in our campaign makes use of the internet. But also, there's an attack on the internet right now. You know, it's stopping the bill that said they're going to stop all theft on the internet, which means they're opening up the doors to know everything you do and to measure everything you do to protect you from yourself. Let me tell you, governments can't protect you from yourself, and they don't need to be taking over the internet either. Of course, all these things are done, you know, to take away the Fourth Amendment. They call that the Patriot Act. For the internet, the Stop Online Piracy Act, always these good things. You know, when that Patriot Act was being voted on, I remember it so clearly because I sat down next to another member, and he was voting for it, and guess what? I was voting against it. And so I said to him, I said, why are you voting for this? I said, you probably don't even know what's in it. You haven't had a chance to read it. Oh, I know that. I said, you know there's going to be some bad stuff in there, don't you? And I told him a few things. Yeah, I know that. I said, why are you going to vote for it? He says, well, the conditions are, we just had this attack. People want us to do something, and it's called the Patriot Act. How can I vote against the Patriot Act? He said, what would I do if I had to go home and explain it to him? I said, well, that's your job. Go home and explain it to him, you know, while you're doing it. We will have to make a decision real soon. Whether it's 6 months or 2 years, I don't know, but it's real soon. We're able, from Austrian perspective in economics, to predict certain events will come. We can't tell when. Austrian economics taught that there was, and we fully understood there was a housing bubble. And we knew there was a NASDAQ bubble. We didn't know the day that it would burst. So there are certain events that are coming that are going to happen, and they're going to be very dangerous, but they might come in a day, a week, or a year. But the foundation of the system has been eroded. So therefore, the collapsing and the falling down of the system. The financial system is on shaky legs. The militarism that we have overseas, it's very shaky because you know, there are plans right now to spread the war into Syria, and then how soon can we start bombing Iran? And that's very precarious. So we now have a system where our personal liberties aren't being protected, and there could be problems in the street. We have had some indication that people are speaking out, and they have every right to, and they should. Whether it's the Tea Party movement or the Occupy movement, they're just desperate because they're dissatisfied with the government, and they're looking for some answers. But what we have to work for is to work our way out of here and try to prevent the violence and respect and honor the rule of law and respect all individuals to protect everybody, not just certain people from all these crimes.